There's a big difference between winning a judgment at court and collecting your money from the defendant after you win the judgment. Many times it's very easy to win a judgment. In fact, I'd say about half the time, if not more, the defendant doesn't even appear to defend himself at trial. When that happens, you'll get a default judgment, meaning that you'll win the case. And if you can establish what the defendant owes you, the court will enter a judgment in that amount against the defendant. So once you win your judgment, you then need to go through something called supplementary process. And what will happen is the court will have a hearing, will determine what the defendant has for assets, and then come up with some sort of a payment plan for the defendant. Now, what happens most frequently is the defendant may make a few payments and then he'll stop. And then you need to go back to court and keep going through the process. The court will issue something called a capias, which will authorize the sheriff's department to arrest the defendant and bring him in. If he doesn't appear, bring him in for a hearing. But a lot of times the defendant doesn't have a home, the sheriff can't really determine where he is, and the sheriffs are usually reluctant to actually put somebody in handcuffs and bring them into the courthouse. Okay, so a lot of plaintiffs, after they win their judgment, simply get fed up and burnt out, and they don't want to keep going to court, taking days off of work or paying a lawyer to continue to drag this defendant in regarding payment hearings. Also, another thing to consider is if the defendant doesn't have assets or if he's on welfare, there's nothing that the court can order him to pay to you. Right? So if his source of income is welfare, food stamps, Social Security, disability, anything like that, that money cannot be used to pay your judgment. Right? So keep all of this in mind if you're considering bringing somebody to court. First of all, consider what it is the defendant is going to owe you and whether he's going to have the means to pay it back. Okay? Does the defendant own a home? Does he have a car? Does he have a good job? Does he have assets? If so, if you have a strong case against him, then it's a good bet to file your complaint and take him to court. If not, then you may want to think twice about getting involved in the legal process.